If you're into Game Boy, there's a good chance you'll like my new Neo Geo Pocket Color series too. Every Thursday I'm reviewing a new Neo Geo game. Just join the PO3 Patreon or become a channel member here on YouTube. Rare are, I'm certain, plenty well known to a lot of retro gaming fans. The team responsible for turning Donkey Kong into a side-scrolling platformer with Donkey Kong Country and Land, making multiplayer first-person shooter history with GoldenEye for the N64, and of course, who can forget Battletoads, surely have quite the pedigree. Their NES portfolio in particular is huge, beginning way back in 1987. However, before even that, the British development house was known as Ultimate, making a bunch of stuff for home computers like the Commodore 64, Amstrad, and MSX through the mid-80s. One of their earliest efforts was a jungle maze game called Sabre Wulf, where you walk around different environments collecting the missing pieces of this amulet and fighting off enemies and the eponymous blue wolf with your saber. Like many of its contemporaries, it's way too frustrating to be that much fun nowadays, with monsters springing out of the ground in random, often unavoidable places. It feels very much like a relic of the time that should probably have been left there. An interesting early couple of pages in Rare's biography, should they ever write one. Saberman himself would appear in 3 other games around this time, moving on from the jungle of his debut to the caverns of Underworld and the castle of Nightlaw. But after the demonic goings-on in 1986's Pentagram, he apparently decided to hang up his saber for good. Aside from an odd cameo in Banjo-Tooie in 2000, we'd not really see our hero again. That was until, rather out of the blue in 2004, we'd get this sequel to the first game on the Game Boy Advance. The now Silver Fox Saberman is forced out of retirement as some mysterious stranger has shattered the Sabre Wulf amulet he worked so hard to reforge 2 decades earlier. So, of course, now the wolf is loose again and terrorizing local villages by stealing treasures and even people back to his lair. He'll walk around the overworld searching for entrances to said lair. Within each one is one of the puzzle platformer levels. Here the aim is to progress rightwards from the entrance tent through the trap and monster-filled stage to retrieve whatever goal item has been conveniently left outside the wolf's cave. To help you along the way are several of these magical creatures that you can place down to do different things. You can drop what's called a blubber, which will springboard you up high, necessary to scale some walls or find hidden treasure. A boomer will blow away most obstacles like the giant green blocks that are in your way or bombs that kill you on touch. A serpent which can be suspended in mid-air and used as a platform, or even Bigfoot, who walks back and forth booting the ever-living hell out of everything, including you, and clearing a path for you. There are loads more that you'll uncover later on, and they can either be found trapped in sacks around the stages, or can be purchased from shops and such. There are often multiple ways to solve a puzzle. For example, you could use blubber to get you over some blocks, make a platform, or blast your way through. You only get what you have at the start though, so trial and error is needed sometimes, as you may inadvertently use something you need later on. Anytime you kill something, or clear blocks or bombs and so on, these bouncing gold coins will fly out. Try to catch these if you can, as they can be spent in the store. If you're struggling with a particular puzzle, you can purchase extra helpers, but I don't think you're ever required to do this. You should be able to solve everything with just that which you can find on the stages. Make sure you do buy the compass though. This will point to your next destination, which is invaluable because the entryways to these levels pop up in all sorts of random places, leaving you wandering around like a tourist who doesn't know where to go. In the first village, named after Black Witch, another of Rare's early games, you'll be speaking to the mayor for a bit who will give you some clues, but really these 4 or 5 stages locations have no real logic to them. There are no lives to the game as such. Should you die, you can just restart from the beginning of a stage, and none of them are very long. The prize at the end changes colour, starting off gold, then becoming silver, and finally bronze, depending on how long it takes you to grab it. The better the colour, the more prize money you'll get for it. Once you've grabbed it, the level itself clears out, and now you have to leg it, as Saberman calls it, back to the safety of your tent. The wolf is chasing you now, so don't let him catch you. Enemies, bombs, and such might have disappeared, but the platforming bits are still there. You might easily get caught behind a ledge or slowed down in a swamp, and if the wolf gets you, you're starting again. The graphics are immediately recognizable as a Game Boy Advance game to anyone who's played enough of them, with some well-drawn sprites and really over-bright color schemes. This popping of color was very common on the Advance because the original console's screen was so dark. Artists often overcompensated by turning up the brightness and saturation to almost sickly levels. We are gonna have to talk about that sound design though. I'm really not sure about the beep speech. This is, for want of a better name, the collection of tones or beeps or nonsense sounds that video games have used in the place of actual voices to represent dialogue. Usually this is something we take for granted and only partly even notice. I noticed it here though, and once I did, I couldn't stop noticing it. It's really weird, especially when you finally meet your arch nemesis, Dr. Do-Little Good. They're really loud too, and difficult to ignore. The music is nothing special, and the few lines of actual speech you do get are kinda cringy as well. Finally, and I'm getting really pernickety here, but I make no apologies for that, the footstep sounds don't actually synchronize with the footsteps. A bit of a fart all round with the audio, I'm afraid. So, thankfully, this is nothing like the identically named Maze game from the 80s, even if it is a spiritual sequel. It's quite a unique title in and of itself, although is kinda starved for a bit of variation. There aren't that many levels, and they all follow basically the same method. The puzzle solving really won't take a great deal of your brain capacity, as it's always basically obvious what you have to do, and even if you're struggling, you can just buy extra things anyway. Money is never an issue. Just find a level with a bag of money next to a death trap. This way you can grab the 10 gold or whatever, instantly die, and just restart the level. You don't lose your collected stuff on death and can rack up all the coins you'll ever need this way. The bits where you're getting chased can be quite good fun, especially when the coins you've spawned are still bouncing around the place and you can try to style flex on the wolf and catch them anyway. But yeah. Sabre Wulf hadn't been revisited for 2 decades when this came out, and funnily enough, it's been a further 2 decades since, and it again hasn't been revisited. I can't imagine the poor sod's still alive anymore, and if he is, he ain't fit to chase a wolf away. He's in some nursing home, gibbering away at the carers like...